Tonight, everything fell into place. The glances, the excuses, the subtle distance that had crept between us like a slow-moving tide, it all made sense now. My wife cheated on me. I should have been at the party. That's what keeps playing in my mind, over and over like a sick joke. If I hadn't left town, if I had been there with her, maybe things would have been different. Or maybe they wouldn't have been. Maybe this had been coming for a long time, and I was just too blind to see it. It started with a phone call. My mother had a health scare, nothing life-threatening, but enough for me to rush to my parents' house a few hours away. Sarah had seemed concerned at first, her hands gripping mine as she told me to drive safely. But I see it clearly now. There was something else behind her eyes. Something unreadable. I told her to go to the party without me, to enjoy herself. "You've been looking forward to this for weeks," I had said. And she hesitated, just for a moment, before agreeing. I was gone for 2 days. 2 days. That's all it took for everything I knew about my life to change. When I returned, Sarah was different. Not in the obvious way, not in a way that someone else might have noticed. But I noticed. She was quieter, more distant. She smiled at all the right moments, kissed me when she thought she should, but there was something missing. And then, tonight, I found her phone. I wasn't even looking for it. She had left it charging on the nightstand while she showered, and a message popped up on the screen. I wasn't the type to snoop. I never had been. But something about the name caught my eye. Marcus. An old college friend. Someone I had met a handful of times, always charming, always just a little too familiar with Sarah. My stomach twisted as I tapped the screen, the message glowing like a confession. "Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you." I stared at the words, my heart pounding in my chest. Another message appeared before I could process the first. "Wish I could have stayed longer. You're addictive." The air in the room seemed to vanish. My ears rang, my hands trembled. The shower was still running, the sound of water masking the quiet devastation ripping through me. I had to be wrong. There had to be an explanation. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was betrayal. And it had only just begun. The shower shut off. The sound of water swirling down the drain filled the silence, a cruel countdown to the moment she would step out, towel wrapped around her, her face fresh and untouched by the guilt she should be feeling. I stood frozen, her phone still in my hand, the words on the screen searing into my mind. "Last night was incredible. You're addictive." I should have confronted her right then. I should have stormed into the bathroom, thrown her phone at her feet, and demanded the truth. But I didn't. Because part of me, some stupid, broken part of me, needed more than just a text message. I needed to know how deep the betrayal ran. So, I put her phone back exactly as I found it. Screen off. Charging. Untouched. By the time she emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in her favorite robe, her hair damp against her shoulders, I was sitting on the edge of the bed, forcing my face into something neutral. Something unreadable. She smiled at me. Smiled. "Hey," she said softly, walking over to me. She placed a hand on my shoulder, her fingers warm against my skin. "You okay?" I almost laughed at the irony of it. Was I okay? The woman I had loved for years, the woman I had built a life with, had spent the night in another man's arms while I was away dealing with a family emergency. And now she stood before me, concerned about me. "I'm fine," I lied. The words felt foreign in my mouth. "Just tired from the drive." She nodded, brushing her fingers through my hair the way she always did when she was trying to comfort me. "Why don't you get some sleep? We can talk in the morning." I didn't answer. I just watched her as she crossed the room, picking up her phone, unlocking it with a quick swipe. No hesitation. No guilt. She climbed into bed beside me, rolling onto her side, her back facing me. Within minutes, her breathing slowed, steady and unbothered. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. There was no mistake. No misunderstanding. Sarah had cheated. But how long had it been going on? Was it just last night? Or had she been sleeping with Marcus for weeks? Months? Had she been lying to me every time she said she loved me? I clenched my jaw, my fists tightening against the sheets. I needed answers. And I would get them. One way or another. Sleep never came. I lay in the darkness, my mind unraveling every moment of the past few months, looking for signs, clues I had missed. The way Sarah had been on her phone more lately, turning the screen away when I walked by. The late nights at work, that never used to happen before. The faint, almost imperceptible shift in the way she kissed me, like something was missing. Like part of her was already somewhere else. I had been too blind, too trusting. But not anymore. As the first light of morning crept through the blinds, Sarah stirred beside me, stretching lazily before rolling over to face me. Her smile was soft, her eyes still heavy with sleep. "Morning," she murmured, running a hand down my arm. I swallowed the bitterness in my throat and forced myself to play along. "Morning." She studied my face for a moment. "You sure you're okay? You look tense." Tense. That was one way to put it. "I'm just exhausted," I lied again. "Long drive, a lot on my mind." She seemed to accept it, nodding before sitting up and swinging her legs over the side of the bed. As she stood, she reached for her phone on the nightstand. My chest tightened as I watched her thumb move across the screen, typing something quickly before setting it back down. Was she messaging him? Was Marcus the first thing on her mind this morning? I had to be smart. If I confronted her too soon, she would twist the story, gaslight me, find a way to make me look like the paranoid, jealous husband. No, I needed undeniable proof. So, I did something I never thought I would do. While Sarah was in the shower, I grabbed her phone. My hands were steady as I navigated to her messages. The thread with Marcus was pinned to the top. Of course, it was. I clicked it open, scanning the recent messages. "Marcus, miss you already. Sarah, last night was risky, but I can't stop thinking about it. Marcus, worth it. When can I see you again? Sarah, soon. I'll find a way." My stomach churned. Find a way. That meant this wasn't a one-time mistake. This wasn't something she regretted. This was planned. And then I saw it, the message that sealed it. "Marcus, wish I could have stayed the whole night." I felt the blood drain from my face. She hadn't just cheated on me, she had brought him here. To our home. To our bed. The sound of the shower shutting off snapped me out of my daze. I quickly placed the phone back where it was, my heart pounding. I could hear her humming softly, completely unaware that I knew the truth now. I clenched my fists. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I had all the proof I needed. Now, it was time to plan my next move. I had never been good at pretending, but that morning, I pulled off the greatest performance of my life. I had to. Sarah walked out of the bathroom, a towel wrapped around her body, her wet hair dripping onto her shoulders. She looked at me, completely unaware that I had just read her messages, completely unaware that I knew everything. I forced a smile. "I was thinking maybe we could do something today," I said, my voice casual. "Just us. It's been a while since we had a real date." She looked surprised, but her lips curled into a small smile. "That sounds nice," she said, tilting her head. "Are you sure you're okay? You've been acting a little off." Off. If only she knew. "Just tired," I said. "But I think spending time together might help." She bought it. Of course, she did. That's the thing about liars. They always assume they're the only ones capable of deception. We spent the day together, but I barely registered any of it. Lunch at a cafe. A walk through the park. She held my hand, laughed at my jokes, played the role of the perfect wife. But I knew the truth. And the truth poisoned every single moment. That night, as she lay next to me, scrolling through her phone, I made my move. Casually, I got out of bed and walked to the bathroom. I left the door slightly open, just enough to watch her reflection in the mirror. The second she thought I was gone, she picked up her phone and typed quickly. I could see it. She was texting him. I took a deep breath, my fists clenching. I needed more. I needed to know when they were meeting next. So, I played my final card. The next morning, over breakfast, I sighed heavily. "I have to go out of town again," I said, running a hand through my hair. "Work emergency." Sarah froze for a fraction of a second before taking a sip of her coffee. "Oh, how long?" "Just a night or two," I said. "I leave tomorrow morning." I saw it then. The flicker of something in her eyes. Something she tried to hide. Excitement. She thought she was getting another opportunity to see him. She thought she was getting away with it. I forced a smile. "I'll miss you," I said, reaching for her hand across the table. She smiled back. "I'll miss you too." Liar. I had set the trap. Now, I just had to wait for her to walk right into it. The next morning, I kissed Sarah goodbye at the door, my duffel bag slung over my shoulder, my car keys jingling in my hand. "Drive safe," she said, squeezing my hand. Her voice was soft, affectionate. A perfect wife sending off her loving husband. Oscar-worthy performance. I smiled. "Of course. I'll call you later." Then I left. Or at least, that's what she thought. I drove around the block, parking a few streets away where I had a clear view of our house. My hands were steady on the wheel, my heart pounding like a war drum. The plan was simple: wait, watch, and catch her in the act. I didn't have to wait long. An hour later, Sarah's car pulled out of the driveway. She wasn't rushing, wasn't sneaking around. She was comfortable, confident. She had done this before. I gripped the steering wheel as I tailed her, staying far enough behind to not raise suspicion. She drove across town, her movements practiced, too smooth for a first-time affair. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't hesitating. She had done this before. And then, I saw him. Marcus. Waiting outside a sleek apartment complex, leaning against his car like he didn't have a care in the world. He didn't check his phone, didn't look around like a man afraid of being caught. He knew she was coming. She pulled up, and he opened the passenger door without hesitation, sliding in like he belonged there. Like he belonged with my wife. My vision blurred with rage, my fingers digging into the steering wheel. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to floor the gas, to confront them right then and there, to make them feel even a fraction of what I was feeling. But no, I had come this far. I had played the long game. I wasn't going to let emotions ruin my revenge. Instead, I took out my phone, and I started recording. Proof. Undeniable, inarguable proof. Because when I confronted Sarah, it wouldn't just be words. It would be war. I followed them. Not too close, not too far, just enough to keep them in sight. Sarah and Marcus drove through the city without a care in the world, completely unaware that I was watching their every move. They weren't meeting in some dark, hidden motel like people ashamed of what they were doing. No, they were bold, comfortable. She was smiling, laughing. That was the part that gutted me the most. She looked happy. We hadn't laughed like that in months. Maybe longer. I kept my distance as they pulled into an upscale hotel. Marcus parked, and before they even stepped out of the car, she leaned over and kissed him. Not hesitant. Not guilty. Passionate. Like it was second nature. Like it was routine. I gripped the phone in my hand, capturing every second of it. Every frame burned itself into my mind. I had the proof now. There was no escaping this. I could storm inside, confront them right there in the hotel lobby, make a scene. But that wasn't good enough. That was too easy. She needed to feel what I felt. She needed to know what it was like to have her world ripped apart. So, I let them go. I let them disappear into the hotel together. I let them have this last moment, this last lie, while I planned my next move. Because this wouldn't just be revenge. This would be ruin. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I sat in my car, staring at the footage on my phone, watching Sarah betray me over and over again. The way she looked at Marcus, the way she touched him, it wasn't just lust. It was familiarity. This wasn't new. I scrolled through her messages again, reading between the lines, piecing together what I already knew deep down. It had been going on for months, maybe longer. And the worst part? She never planned to stop. That's when I knew I couldn't just leave her. I couldn't just walk away. I needed her to suffer. I needed her to feel what it was like to have everything ripped away in an instant. So I started making calls. First, to a private investigator I had hired just days before, after I found the first text message. I needed more. I needed every dirty detail. Second, to my lawyer. If I was going to destroy Sarah, I had to do it properly. And third, to her best friend, Emily. The same friend whose party Sarah had used as an excuse to cheat. Because Emily had a big mouth. And once she knew, everyone would know. I wasn't just exposing her. I was setting fire to her entire life. And when the flames finally reached her, I'd be there to watch her burn. By the time Sarah came home the next evening, everything was already in motion. She walked through the front door like nothing had happened, tossing her purse onto the table, stretching like she was exhausted from a long day. From what, exactly? The guilt didn't show on her face. There was no hesitation, no shame. She had spent the night in another man's arms, and now she was back in our home, acting like she still belonged here. It made me sick. I forced a smile. "Hey," I said casually. "How was your day?" She glanced at me, surprised. Maybe she expected me to be distant, suspicious. Maybe she had prepared some half-hearted excuse, just in case. But when I acted like nothing was wrong, she relaxed. "It was fine," she said, brushing past me. "Busy. Busy. Right." She didn't even notice the small red light blinking on the security camera in the corner of the living room, the one I had installed that morning. I followed her into the kitchen, watching as she poured herself a glass of wine, completely unaware that the walls around her were already crumbling. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Emily. "WTF? Is this real?" I smirked. It had begun. Sarah's best friend was seeing the photos I had sent her, the proof. Sarah and Marcus at the hotel. The texts. The betrayal laid out in high definition. And Emily, bless her gossip-loving soul, wouldn't be able to keep it to herself. Within hours, Sarah's world would start to collapse, and I was going to enjoy every second of it. It didn't take long. Less than an hour after I sent the photos to Emily, the first domino fell. Sarah's phone buzzed on the counter. She picked it up, her face relaxed, until she read whatever message had just come through. I watched as the color drained from her cheeks. Another buzz. Then another. Then a call. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she set the phone down, staring at it like it was a ticking bomb. "Everything okay?" I asked, barely able to contain my amusement. She flinched at the sound of my voice. "Yeah," she said quickly, forcing a smile. Just a work thing." Lie. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Must be serious. You look pale." She waved a hand, turning away from me as her phone buzzed again. This time, she picked it up and walked toward the hallway. Coward. I gave her a few minutes before following. She was in our bedroom, pacing near the bed, whispering into the phone. "I don't know how they found out." "No, Marcus, listen to me. Emily just texted." "No, I haven't talked to Daniel yet." She froze when she saw me standing in the doorway. The look in her eyes? Pure panic. I tilted my head, pretending to be confused. "Who's Marcus?" Her lips parted, but no words came out. "Gotcha." For the first time since this all started, Sarah looked truly afraid. She gripped the phone like it was a lifeline, but Marcus wasn't going to save her now. Not from this. Not from me. "Who's Marcus?" I asked again, stepping into the room, closing the door behind me. Silence. She swallowed hard, her eyes darting around the room like she was looking for an escape. "Daniel, don't lie to me." My voice was calm. Too calm. She hesitated. "It's not what you think." I almost laughed. "Not what I think." I pulled my phone from my pocket and tapped the screen, playing the video of her and Marcus kissing in the car. The hotel entrance in the background. Undeniable. Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. I let the footage play for a few more seconds before pausing it. "Looks pretty clear to me." Tears welled in her eyes. "Daniel, please." "How long?" I cut her off, my voice sharper now. "How long have you been screwing him behind my back?" She shook her head, her breath coming in short, panicked bursts. It was a mistake. Just one night." "Don't." I clenched my jaw, my hands tightening into fists. "Don't insult me with that bullshit." I read the texts. "Sarah, I know this wasn't just one night. I know you brought him into our home. Into our bed." A sob broke from her lips, but I didn't care. I wouldn't let her cry her way out of this. "You were going to keep lying to me, weren't you?" I took a step closer, watching as she shrank back. "You were going to let me keep loving you, trusting you, while you kept sneaking around with him." She shook her head desperately. "I didn't want to hurt you." I let out a bitter laugh. "Well, congratulations. You failed spectacularly." She reached for me then, her hands trembling. "Daniel, please." I stepped back. "Don't touch me." Her face crumpled. "I love you." Liar. I exhaled slowly, steadying myself. "I hope he was worth it," I said, my voice colder than I had ever thought possible. "Because after tonight, you have nothing." And with that, I walked out of the bedroom, leaving her standing there in the wreckage of the life she had just lost. I didn't stop walking. Sarah called after me, her voice shaking, but I didn't turn around. I went straight to the living room, grabbed the envelope I had prepared, and tossed it onto the coffee table. "What's this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Divorce papers." She flinched like I had struck her. "Daniel, you signed them." I cut her off. "Or you fight me in court. But either way, you're out of my life." Tears streamed down her face now. "You don't mean that." We can fix this." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Fix this? You slept with another man, Sarah. Over and over again. You chose him." I took a step closer, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous whisper. "You don't get to choose me now." She shook her head, gasping for air. "I made a mistake." "No," I said. "A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. This was a choice." She sank onto the couch, gripping her face in her hands. "I don't want to lose you," she sobbed. "You lost me the moment you let him touch you." I turned away, my heart hammering, my hands clenched. And then, as if the universe was delivering the perfect final act, her phone buzzed. Sarah shot up, scrambling for it, but I was faster. I grabbed it from the table and held it up. Marcus's name flashed across the screen. The air between us thickened. I turned the phone toward her. "Still think this was just a mistake?" Her silence was all the answer I needed. Without another word, I tossed the phone onto the floor and walked to the front door. She jumped up. Daniel, please. I stopped at the doorway, looking back at her one last time. You made your choice, Sarah, I said, my voice hollow. Now live with it. And then I walked out, leaving her behind in the ruins of everything she destroyed. I didn't look back. I walked out that door and left behind everything, the memories, the love, the lies. The woman I once believed was my forever had become nothing more than a painful lesson. The cold night air hit my face as I stepped outside, but I barely felt it. My heart was still pounding, my mind racing, but there was a strange calm settling over me. It was done. Sarah called my name from inside the house, but her voice was muffled by the weight of her own betrayal. I kept walking. My car was parked down the street, where I had left it the night before when I followed her. I climbed in, gripping the wheel, letting out a slow breath. Then, my phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer. Everything is in place. We'll file first thing in the morning. I stared at the screen for a long moment, the finality of it sinking in. This wasn't just an argument. This wasn't fixable. This was the moment I let go of the life I had built with her. I didn't reply. Instead, I scrolled through my contacts until I found the one person I knew I could trust. Emily. She had called me 3 times since I sent her the proof. She had always been Sarah's best friend, but now she was on my side. She had seen what Sarah had done, what kind of woman she truly was. I hit call. Daniel, she answered on the first ring, her voice cautious. It's over, I said simply. A pause. Then, good. I leaned my head back against the seat, exhaling. She's going to regret this, isn't she? Emily didn't hesitate. More than you'll ever know. I smirked. Good. And with that, I started the engine, leaving Sarah and everything we were behind. She made her choice. Now, it was my turn. The end. If you like this story, please like and subscribe to the channel.